Is it really becoming legitimate to use this online currency?
Well, I think the big point is the fact that they're even having these hearings means it could be on its way to becoming legit. And all of the investors in Bitcoin that I've spoken to say they're very happy. They actually want Bitcoin to be regulated because that would legitimize it. So that's a huge reason.
Well, it would make them a lot of money, too, because once
it's
tradable, then they can trade it and make money on their holdings.
Very true, and this is one of the reasons we saw Bitcoin hit a new record high today. I mean, the latest reading, $706 on Mt. Gox, one of the exchanges. That's incredible. Others would say it's already legitimate because, remember, more than 100,000 internet sites accept Bitcoins. And for just look in China, Baidu, which is, basically their Google over there, they have a unit that actually accepts commercial transactions in Bitcoin. So that's the other side of the big run-up we've seen in Bitcoin, is just demand coming out of China.
Nick, you're a man who's got a thought or two about Bitcoins. What are they?
Yeah, it is the most fascinating story in capital markets this year, I think, bar none.
Why?
Here's a currency that 4 years ago was barely invented, and for the first 2 to 3 years of its life traded for a nickel, a dime, a quarter, and then it just took off. And by the end of last year, it was $13, and now we're talking about $700. Where else in the world have you seen that kind of appreciation in any kind of asset class, old or new?
I don't understand this. Where does it get its value?
Ultimately, Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin is a call option on the future transaction ability of Bitcoin around the world. It is basically a replacement for the global banking system's ability to transfer payments around the world, and that's why you get the volatility, because it trades and prices like an option, not so much a currency at this point.
I just want to know what's wrong with the global currencies of the world. I mean, central banks and treasury departments, they can't keep their own currencies in check. How are you going to organize something like this?
Well, that's exactly right, and that's actually one of the reasons people like Bitcoin, because the supply is finite. Bob Rice earlier in the day called it gold 2.0. That's the reason that a lot of savers in China in particular like it, because there's no central bank that's just going to come out and turn on the printing presses and dilute the value of the currency.
That's right. It's basically, I call it gold for nerds.
And then you'll see Bitcoin trading at 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. Rick Falkvinia does an excellent analysis. He predicts that Bitcoin will capture between 1 and 10% of the global Forex market, which implies a price of between $100,000 to $1 million per Bitcoin.
Speaking of the price rising, this is in the next headline here from a hedge funder. Fortress's Novogratz says Bitcoin will be, quote, worth a lot. And this is Michael Novogratz. He's the chief investment officer for Fortress Investment Group, which is a $55 billion hedge fund. And he says, put a little money in Bitcoin, come back in a few years, and it's going to be worth a lot.
Right. Well, we became aware of Bitcoin when it was about $1 a Bitcoin. We recommended it to viewers of Kaiser Report when it was $5 a Bitcoin. And it's been the best performing asset in the world, bar none. But this Fortress gentleman mentions he's a hedge fund and a private equity fund manager, and he understands that Bitcoin is now an asset class. Stocks, bonds, gold, silver, real estate, Bitcoin. It is an asset class. So every single one of those 10,000 hedge funds in the world who control trillions of dollars will need exposure to Bitcoin if they want to remain competitive. That's the bottom line. So these hedge funds will start nibbling into Bitcoin, and of course Barry Silbert's second market in New York has the Bitcoin Investment Trust, or BIT, that makes it easier for them to buy into Bitcoin. They will start outperforming their peers, and then their peers will have to get into Bitcoin as an asset class, and that's when you'll see the move into 5 and 6 digits.
Now, Novogratz says the reason why he sees it becoming worth so much is because of it growing as a payment system, displacing credit cards and PayPal and the likes of this, especially in the developing world, he says. So this is what we see in this next headline, Bitcoin Currency 2.0, and this is from Deloitte. And they mention the fact that it is growing widely across Kenya. For example, it's being integrated with the M-Pesa system, which is already a system of paying for goods and services with a mobile phone. So Bitcoin is being integrated into that system. In China, you have Baidu accepting Bitcoin. If Bitcoin were to achieve the mainstream adoption some believe it is capable of, the implications to retail banking would be seismic, with declining demand for traditional banking services like cash storage, payment, balance checks, international transfers, and foreign exchange, to name a few.
Most of the people who are on the sidelines not buying Bitcoin today will start to buy Bitcoin when it gets over 1,000, and then a greater percentage of people will definitely plow into Bitcoin when it starts to get over 10,000, because then the greed factor will kick in and people will realize that, oh my